Hello, it's Franz, Eagle Business Software, and I just want to show you how to quickly import a spreadsheet into EBMS. So here we have a spreadsheet that's in Excel format. We want to get this down to something that's strictly text, either tab delimited or CSV. So I'm going to click in the top left triangle here. I'm going to clear the formats. Gives us more of a text-based look here. And then I am going to remove any extra columns that we won't be working with today. All right, looks like we have some blank lines in here too. So get rid of the blank lines. I'm going to do a sort. Also top left, custom sort. And we're going to sort on one of the fields that is blank. And we're going to check my data has headers. Okay, see if all our blanks went down to the end. Remove those. These are actually categories. However, we already have a web category column here. So that will help us out. Let's quickly move up and down the spreadsheet. I use Control Home and Control End. Okay, next step is to just check our headers and make sure that I like to remove symbols. Let's go ahead and take these double quotes out. Let's go ahead and also just make this say list price. So some forward slashes. Probably don't want those in our vendor catalog either. All right. Next step here is we're going to left justify everything. And then I am going to save it as a CSV file. I'm just going to throw it on my desktop and give it a memorable name. We'll just call it use today's date, 10/15 import. And this is a very important step here. You can use comma separated values or text tab delimited. I'm going to go ahead and use comma separated values. All right. So then what you're going to do is locate that file, your desktop. There it is. It's still an Excel file, but you can see it's a slightly different icon on it, signifying it's a CSV. I can also open this in Notepad like this and take a look at the file we just created. All right, so then we're going to go into EBMS. And we are going to import this. Okay, first step, we're going to go to File, Utilities, Text Import Export Mappings. We're going to make a new map. We give it a description. I'll browse for a text file we just made. Click Open. Next step is to go up here top right, hit From Text File, and there we get our items there. So everything looks good. This has 4 decimals. I'm going to go ahead and reduce that down to 2 decimals. And we want to define a key for import. We're going to say new part is going to be our import key. And now I'm going to go ahead and just check some of these. So I'm going to click next row. Just keep checking, make sure the output I'm getting in this preview column is what I think it should be. I can even do a test import, see if we get any errors. I'm just going to do a range of records. All right, complete without errors. So that would have skipped the header row. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create this vendor catalog. To do that, I'm going to come down here where it says create file. We may get some error messages along the way, but All right, says the DBF already exists. Oh, because we did the test import. So we're going to go ahead and overwrite that test import with the real one. Got a small error. This is actually a common error. This means that the field we're importing is longer than the field supported in EBMS. So it's just going to truncate it. What that means is it's just going to cut the end off that's too long. So if you have a really long description, the end will be cut off, but you should still be able to make sense out of it. I believe descriptions are 50 characters. So you still have 50 characters to recognize the item by. Okay, there we are. We got quite a few descriptions are too long, but we have 149 items imported, and then we have the various items here that had the description that was too long. Like I said, they're just truncated, so that is not an issue. So we're going to keep going. The next thing we have to do is what this step did was this created a table in the EBMS database. However, we still can't see the actual items. So what we're going to do now is actually map that table up to a vendor catalog in EBMS. Come over here to inventory, options, and then down to vendor catalogs. I'm going to click new. I'm going to find the vendor catalog we just made. Should be at the top of the list normally. It usually begins with 2 zeros. And we're going to give it a name. If you import new catalogs every year, you may want to put the year or even the date of the price increase when your vendor sent you the new pricing. And there's a couple different ways you can link the vendor catalog to EBMS. For instance, if your price list has a manufacturer part number that is different than yours, and you can use the manufacturer name and the manufacturer part number. If your ID that you're using in EBMS for the inventory item is the same as what your manufacturer is using, then you just want to use inventory ID in this case. So what we need to do now is go ahead and map this up. So I'm just going to take a quick look at my spreadsheet, and it looks like we're mapping with new part. So we're going to make new part be our key field. And then we come to this screen. This screen, you connect the fields to left side is the fields in the vendor catalog. Right side is the fields in EBMS. So we're going to map new part to ID. So one thing here is sometimes the arrows do not connect right away. So one way to get around that is to click left, click right, and then come back left and connect, just like that. That will get you around the problem with the arrows not dragging right away. So I'm just going to map it up so that let's actually, to delete a link, you right click, delete link. We're going to take the description here to description 1. We have an old part that would probably look just fine in description 2. Here we have the web category that it's going to go into, like a classification or type or tag, however you want to call that. And then we have the list price. And in this case, we're going to put list price to base. This could be different in your case if you're not using retail as your base. You're possibly, this list price could be your cost. Or you might have several fields in your vendor catalog where you have multiple different prices that you would map up here. But we're trying to keep this simple just to give you an idea. Now this screen is important because this will show what EBMS will overwrite when it does a vendor catalog update. So you want to uncheck anything that is that you do not want overwritten. And in this case, I want to overwrite everything. So I'm going to leave everything checked on. And then in the new catalog list, what fields you want to sort on. I normally check all these on, but you wouldn't have to. If you have a really long list, you could just sort some fields. This screen here gives us 2 things. We can decide what folder we want to import the items into. For instance, when you're on a sales order, you type a number in that is not in your inventory, but it is in a vendor catalog. What folder do you want that item to be imported into? So I'm just going to choose hardware, and let's see, we have anything for plumbing? No, we don't, but we'll just go ahead and put it to parts. The lower section here is a little bit more complicated, but you can actually specify folder names in your text file that we did earlier, and it will actually intelligently import the items based on the folder name in the text file. All right, we're gonna hit finish. The vendor catalog is gonna be created, and now we can come here to inventory and come down here lower right-hand corner is catalog, and here is 2019 Christie parts. There are all our items right there. And the next thing we want to do is you might probably want to run a pricing update. Now, if you or your IT person can make a backup before you run the pricing update, that is always good, because if this is your first time running it, sometimes the information your vendor sent you is different than from how things were entered in your system. And so you may end up with different descriptions or different information overwriting existing fields that you weren't expecting. Or you might decide that your vendor's pricing is not actually what you want, and you may want to revert back to what you previously had. So just warning there to make an update before you run the pricing update the first time. Once you know how it behaves, you should not need to make a backup after that. So what we're going to do is go to inventory. Top. So I'm going to close out of here. Inventory, utilities, update vendor catalog, update from vendor catalogs right here. We're going to check the catalog we just made, and I'm going to click next, and there it is. It's updating. Thank you for watching, and you all have a great time using EBMS. Thank you.